Today we are talking about reading goals, intentions, plans for 2026. I recently did a video reflecting on some of my statistics for my reading in 2025, not just my reading, but my book buying. Some of the things I'm talking about in this video might make more sense if you have watched that video, so if you would like to, you can go watch that first. My approach to my reading in 2026 is to simultaneously be more strict with myself, but also just like throw a load of shit at the wall and see what sticks. I read 154 books in 2025, which is one of my more substantial reading years. For 2026, I'm going to stick with the same reading quantity goal that I've had for several years, and that is to read 100 books. I don't really want to put like a number goal on the overall amount of books that I read beyond 100 books. 100 books for me, with my lifestyle and my reading habits as they are, is like super achievable. Like that for me is kind of a given that I will read at least 100 books. But one of the things I really want to get to grips with is my physical TBR. So the books that I have on my shelves that are unread. And that is 267 books. Now, I have waffled on about this for years and years, how I do like having a big enough, like, unread book collection that I shop my own shelves, I have lots of flexibility. But simultaneously, like, 267 books is too many for me to feel comfortable. And I have talked about this for years and years and not actually done anything to change my habits. So in 2026, we are actively speaking habit change into the universe. We're speaking it into existence and seeing if it works. This has to be like a pincer movement. I have to tackle it from two angles. It has to be what I'm reading and also what I'm buying. There are a couple of like active numerical goals that I would like to tick off for 2026 to help me chip away at my physical TBR. One of those is to read 12 classics, and the other is to read 12 books of nonfiction. I own 55 unread classics, and I only read 3 classics in 2025. So that has to meet like somewhere in the middle. Like I have often spoken about my physical classics TBR as a lifetime goal and not an imminent goal. But like the longer we just kick it down the road, the longer of my lifetime we get into. A couple of months ago, I did a video talking about my complicated feelings around my classics collection. And that is something I would like to figure out in 2026. Like really thinking about whether I do want to keep all of those books that I have unread or not. Again, we're doing a pincer movement. We are aiming to read 12 classics in the year, but also we're trying to figure out whether I want to keep some of the books that are on my shelves. I have 34 unread books of nonfiction, and I only read 8 nonfiction books in 2025. I have quite a backlog of nonfiction, and lots of it is kind of about like similar topics. So again, I think I need to think about which of those books I really do want to read, which of them I'm genuinely going to find informative, and whether there are any of them that is just going to be rehashing information that I already know. But I really would have liked to read more nonfiction last year, so I'm aiming to do that in 2026. I do think I should be unhauling more unread books. Like they are just lingering on my shelves, and I think romance is the genre where I particularly want to do this, or getting more comfortable DNFing books that I just think are quite mid and unhauling them. If I read 5 chapters of something and I'm not that into it, I don't want to fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy. Like I have been through a real romance phase, and I'm so glad that I do now read romance books. Years previously, I didn't read any, and I think I was very kind of snobbishly dismissing an entire genre. But I think I went too far and just bought like every romance book I could get my hands on, anything that looked like it might be appealing to me. And actually, I want to be refining and improving the quality of romance fiction that I'm reading in 2026. And I do think some of the books that are on my shelves need to go. I would like to read my pre-orders as soon as they arrive. Midway through last year, I loosely kind of said that I wanted to read my pre-orders within like 6 weeks of them arriving, and it was just too loose. Like I'm pre-ordering books because I want to read them immediately, so that's what I should be doing. So every time a pre-order arrives at my house, it is going to be the next book that I read. I don't know how I feel about this next one, but it feels necessary. I think I should only allow myself to haul a book when I've read 5 books. There are some caveats to this. So books that I get from work don't count as part of this because I kind of need to be reading those for my job. Gifts don't count because I like gifts and that's not my fault. Pre-orders do count. So I have done all of my pre-ordering for the year. So when those, arrive at my doorstep, I need to be like balancing it out and thinking, okay, do I need to read some more books to balance this out? Books that I get for free at events do count. So I'm trying to prevent myself from going to events and coming away with like 10 free books just because I can. Like if I want to be bringing in that number of books from an event, I either need to be like in credit because I've read loads of books, or when I bring them home with me, some other books need to come off the shelves. Oh yeah, so like I think I might have said I can only bring a book in when I've read 5 books. I don't mean that I read 5 books. I mean like 5 books have come off my TBR. So I can get around this by unhauling stuff. Like I said, pincer movement. Another thing that I mentioned halfway through last year and just didn't really actively do was there being no more than 1 unread book by a single author on my shelves. So like I can't have 2 unread books by the same author on my shelves. This is not including my classics collection, but it is including my workbooks. And I think there are 20 authors that this applies to. And we are having a brutal midway check-in on this. 6 months into the year, if there are authors where I have 2 or more unread books from, I either need to read them like then or they're gone. I love the idea of me looking back on this in 6 months and having just completely forgotten how brutal I'm trying to be here. I'm intending to be far more restrained with secondhand shopping in 2026. So in my stats video, I broke down where all of the books that I acquired in 2025 came from. And 52 of the books that came onto my shelves in 2025 were from like secondhand shops. So I'm really aiming to be more restrained. Just because I see something secondhand that I'm interested in doesn't mean I need to buy it like there and then immediately. I get really drawn in by the bargain, by a book that I want to read being like £3 or less. But wouldn't we all? But we're trying to change behaviors here, okay? We're trying to be, more restrained, which is not something that I'm that good at doing. The Irish Readathon will be back for 2026. There will be lots of videos for that, including a video where I talk about all of my unread Irish books. Lots of those will get read in March, but I am anticipating some Irish books will come onto my shelves from that. You can only haul a book when 5 have come off your TBR rule applies to all of those. But what also applies is, again, a hard check-in at 6 months. Are there any books from Irish authors that are lingering on my shelves for years and years and I haven't read them? I have a whole month every year that I dedicate to reading Irish authors. If a book has been on my shelves for years and I have a dedicated month every year where I could be reading that book and I haven't picked it up, do I really want to read it? That's another way we're going to have a hard check-in midway through the year. Now, this next goal entirely contradicts everything that I've just said, because I would like to read 20 Frida McFadden books in 2026. I don't own any Frida McFadden books. I borrow them all from my mother-in-law. So I'm going to try and do all of this stuff while also borrowing 20 books in the year. I'm not being very strict with this goal. This is just kind of I'm going to speak it into existence for funsies goal. But every time I read a Frida McFadden book, I read it in one sitting cover to cover super quickly. So I'm hoping I'm still able to do all of the reading to facilitate my other intentions, while also just going off on a Frida McFadden side quest. Another thing I want to do in 2026 is revisit a type of video that I did at one point last year, which was me looking back on a particular year. I think I did 2022, and telling you all about the books that I still had unread that I'd bought in those years. So I want to revisit that year, but also do them for like every other year. And I think that's going to be a really great way of me checking in with myself to see if talking about those books either reignites the excitement for reading them and makes me read them sooner, or just kind of tells me that I don't want to read them and I should unhaul them. I'd also really love to hear from you guys in those videos. If there's any of the books that I'm talking about where you're just like, Leanne, you're not going to like that, get rid of it. Similarly, I want to do some like trash my wish list videos. I want to talk to you guys all about the books that are on my radar that I want to buy, and I want you to put me off them, basically. I think because I am someone that for several years has read a huge amount of books, it hasn't often felt like a waste to read a book that I thought was just kind of mid, or just like try out a book without being sure if I'd like it or not. Like, because I read so much, it didn't feel like a big negative if I was reading quite a lot of books that I was just kind of like, yeah, they were okay. And I don't want to do that anymore. I want the majority of my reading to be books that are really excellent. And it's unavoidable reading books that do end up being a little bit mid, but so much of my time reading, and I love doing that. But I watch far fewer like TV shows and films. Like, I never really am in the loop with film and TV because I dedicate so much of that time to reading, and I'm fine with that. But actually, on reflection, if a lot of what I'm reading is quite mid, I would prefer to spend that time like watching really excellent TV and film. I don't want to assign a number to my physical TBR that I want to reduce it to, because whilst I'm trying to be strict with myself, I don't want it to be like, I don't want to get to like October, November, December and feel really shit about myself. Like, I do just want to feel like I gave all of these intentions a really good go, even if I didn't like fully like complete them. I think that's probably everything. We're going to do a check-in at the end of the first quarter. And as I said, for some of these guidelines, there will be quite a harsh evaluation point at the midway point in the year. I feel like I spoke about like 2026 being the year that I wanted to capture a lot of joy. And this like regimentation might seem counterintuitive to that. But for me, I don't think it is, because it is so focused on improving the quality of what I'm consuming. I'm trying to free myself from the burden and the weight of all the unread books. One thing I didn't mention is the TBR jar videos are dead. You may have noticed that I didn't do one in December. You probably didn't actually notice, but I noticed. So I didn't like complete that for the year. And you know what? Like, that's fine. I was picking out books and having a little scavenger hunt and then just not reading them. So it stopped working. It served its purpose for a few months and then it stopped working. So we're not doing it anymore. I'd love to know what your reading intentions are for 2026. If you are someone like me that has a substantial physical TBR, how do you approach tackling it? Do you have any goals? Do you have any tips and tricks for me? If you want to let me know you are here but you don't have anything in particular to say, can you leave me your favorite blue emoji? That is it for me today. I hope you're well, and I'll speak to you in my next video.